Thank you, Casey. All right, welcome everyone to our webinar with Tufts University. My name is Paul Smith. I'm the Director of Marketing over here. With me is Erol Irez. He is the Applications Architect at Tufts University. And Sandra, sorry, Sandra, we didn't get a photo of you in time in here, but there you are. Sandra Abramson, she's the Senior Business Analyst at Tufts University. So excited to have you and excited to hear your story today. Before we dive in, I always think it's best to kind of kick things off with just a brief overview of Kuali and Kuali Build. So I thought I would do that. We like to say that we build amazing software for higher education, community included. And by community, we're really referring to the roots of the company back in 2004. As we started as the Kuali Foundation. It was a group of universities and colleges who got together to build software that was a better fit for their needs than what traditional software vendors could offer. And that idea really caught on and took off for the next 10 years. The foundation grew to the point where it became clear that there was a need for a cloud-based system, software as a service, accelerated development and a better user experience, and a dedicated customer support team. So the decision was made in 2014, exactly 10 years ago, to privatize the company. And ever since then, we've been growing very rapidly. Today, we support over 200 universities and colleges across mainly the United States and Canada, including our friends Tufts here. And we have at Kuali 5 different products. So the 5 different products that Kuali supports includes a financial management software called Kuali Financials. We have business continuity planning software called Kuali Ready. For research administration, a suite of products called Kuali Research. And then in the registrar and provost office, another suite of products called Kuali Student. And finally, the product that we're going to be talking about here today, our newest product, Kuali Build, for forms, online forms, and workflow automation. Let's talk a little bit about Kuali Build. It is a no-code solution for online forms and workflow automation. It's designed exclusively for higher education institutions. And there's some characteristics of Kuali Build that really call out that bit that we are really keenly focused on higher education. When you look at online form solutions that are out there and workflow automation solutions out there, you typically find 2 different types of solutions. There are simple and easy solutions like Google Docs, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey. These tend to be very affordable, sometimes free, no engineering required, but very limited in terms of their capability. And then you find the other kind of product, which is a much more complex, very robust solution, but it requires the developer to really build those workflow automations and those forms. Kuali Build falls somewhat in the middle. Or I shouldn't say it falls in the middle. It's really the ultimate combination of both easy and powerful. It doesn't require developers to build really sophisticated solutions. And it's WYSIWYG. It's drag and drop. What you see is what you get. We have a real-time preview for both automations and forms, and it's affordable. So it helps meet the budget that you're dealing with. In a nutshell, Kuali Build enables IT to safely increase its capacity to deliver solutions across a university system or a single campus, while empowering departments to create their own forms and workflows. And we'll talk more about that, particularly with Erol and Sandra have a lot to say about that particular characteristic. Kuali Build by the numbers. To date, we have over 11,000 apps, different forms and workflow automations that have been built using Kuali Build. In the last 30 days, in the month of January, 134,000 plus submissions. So that's 134,000 emails that were not sent, PDFs that weren't downloaded and filled out and emailed to somebody else. A lot of headaches that were not had as a result of having Kuali Build in place. In total, since we started counting in January of 2020, nearly 2 million total submissions across all of our partners. So how does that happen? That happens by enabling end users to be masters of their own domain. And again, we're going to talk more about this, but as I mentioned earlier, we have over 200 customers now Grand total 8,474 app administrators who are able to build their own forms, their own workflow solutions. So that is how it happens. And with that, we're going to introduce our friends Erol and Sandra from Tufts. Erol, why don't we start with you with just a brief introduction, and then Sandra will go to you next.
I've been at Tufts for 13 years. I started as a principal programmer analyst in the PeopleSoft finance, and then I partook in the SIS implementation, PeopleSoft SIS. Tufts is a PeopleSoft backbone company, HR, finance, and SIS. And then since I've touched all three stacks and I have a database administrative background, I eventually found myself to the application architect. As the architect, my job is to make sure the three systems talk to each other and talk to the vendors, that the data is shared properly. And then I was given RAS, Research Administration System, and my success got me into Kuali Build, where we're trying to transform the university to make it more efficient. Sandra?
Hi, everyone. Sandra Abramson. I'm a senior business analyst in the Tufts Technology Services Group. We are a group of about 300 IT professionals that support the entire university. I started at Tufts about 14 years ago, right before Erol did, and I actually started in our medical school. I have more of a business process background, and I transitioned over to IT when we built our faculty information system on the PeopleSoft platform as the foundation. The team that Erol and I are on is the enterprise systems operations and digital transformation team. And that's where Kuali Build fits in. We've been working on this implementation. Well, we're now in a, just it's out there for the community to use, but we started about 3 years ago with the purchase of the platform.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, Erol. Let's see, I've got a lot of questions for you guys. You have such an interesting and amazing story. It's really truly been a success for you all. But I thought we would start at the beginning. I'd like to hear a little bit of story time, if you will. If you could tell us what life was like before Kuali Build. Help us paint that picture, kind of describe some of the systems that were in place, whether they were official systems that were stood up by your department to manage business operations across the university, or if they were more rogue happening, in certain departments. Help us paint that scene. What was life like before Kuali Build?
So I'll start. So before Kuali Build, it was pretty much paper-based forms, PDFs, and we have Qualtrics as a survey tool. And, this was before COVID. Everyone was basically on campus. So it was, pretty easy for paper to be used and not a lot of incentive to sort of automate. We do centralize our payroll and finance transactions on PeopleSoft. There is a way to request, payroll actions through a self-service platform. But yeah, the processes were just more manual. And then, COVID hit, and we suddenly were all remote and needed to continue operating. So, information was getting lost in email, and it was just difficult. Our CIO came to us and formed a team to research whether we could find a low-code, no-code platform that we could release out to the community so that folks could, build their own apps to manage local business processes, and with, low tech assistance. And so we're a team to support Kuali Build, we're a team of 3 people right now. Erol, do you want to?
I'll add to that. While Sandra was busy trying to keep the faculty information system running, there was a $300,000 project in parallel where we tried to automate. We tried to improve the core business processes at Tufts: supplemental pay, hire, leave, transfers, pay raises, and it's cost $300,000 because we tried to use it through PeopleSoft. So that included upgrading to People Tools, hiring consultants to teach us how to use fluid pages that still don't work the way we want, how to use the PeopleSoft approval workflow. And it took 32 iterations on paper in PDFs to have people compromise on eight business processes. And people were still not happy.
Mm.
The issue is departments, not all departments have the same business process. We have a medical school, a vet school, a school of foreign service. We have departments within the university the core university, arts and sciences, that need to do things different. I'm sure people on this webinar will have a department say, well, these 5 people are supervisors. Yet you go into the HR system, not one of them are supervisors. They have been appointed supervisors and approvals at that level at the department. And people were getting upset, like, why can't I find these approvers in PeopleSoft? Or this person's been dead 3 years. Why are they still the manager of the department? Well, no one sent us the memo that person's no longer the manager. So we definitely needed something much more flexible. The CIO joined, he heard this for a year and then tasked me and a couple of other people to find a workflow solution. It was his idea that we need a workflow because we tried Salesforce for workflow, we tried PeopleSoft for workflow, we tried ServiceNow for workflow, and then of course everybody has their own workflows across disparate systems, and then the famous shadow systems departments have their own little Access database. And of course, none of them talk to each other except through personal relationships, emails, phone calls, etc. So we went out into the market, and we already had very powerful tools to create workflows, but we don't have the staff for that, right? And then we had Qualtrics, very basic forms. People love their Qualtrics, but where does Qualtrics end up? It ends up in an email.
Yeah.
Rarely does it end up in an Access database, or it has to be exported. It doesn't get routed for approval. And there are no APIs. I mean, the first thing at each Qualtrics form asks is, who are you? Well, you sent me the email. Why are you asking me who I am? It should come up. That's because the tool was not built for that. I mean, you could use APIs, but it wasn't built for that. It's a survey tool.
Yeah.
So with this in mind, and having lived through the pain of the PeopleSoft path personal action form process, I knew I needed something in the middle, like on your graph. I didn't need something as simple as a form builder, so many of those, and I don't need something super engineered, but I wanted something that us technical people could improve with APIs, easily integrate with our PeopleSoft and our other vendors, easy to send data out to our PeopleSoft and our other systems, and then make it easy so that the user, what did I write? I wrote Node. It needs to be drag and drop. The APIs need to be called with a drag, maybe 1 or 2 variables. The workflow should be able to be done by a business analyst like Sandra, or anyone who knows their departmental procedures yet not need an MIS degree, and very easy to train, right?
So you had some requirements, right? So you're on this quest, you got some requirements, you have a good sense of what you're looking for.
Yep.
And as you approach the market, can you talk about some of the solutions, without naming names, talk about some of the solutions that you found, and either things that you liked about them, but they, came up short in other areas.
Don't name names. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a little hard. All right.
Well,
You can if you want.
There's a company with the initials KF. They were nice. They were close, but the APIs were impossible to use. It was pretzel twists. It wasn't very easy to use. We have a Microsoft system, but we don't support it. But people do use it. But it's for people who are MIS or people who took some comp sci, right? The initials are PA, Microsoft PA. And then the more we looked at it, there was a point of no return. We were looking at so many things, and they were just missing it. So there were really 2 people in the running, Kuali and the other. And once we demoed it to a couple of other people, and the cost the cost, my goodness, there was no question. We went with Kuali.
And just to add to that, our approach is sort of fast fail. Like, we'll purchase software, we'll kick the tires, and we found pretty quickly that Kuali Build, we really were pretty confident that it would work at Tufts.
All right.
Let me add, we took the PAF supplemental pay, the one that is the most used in PeopleSoft. It took us 7 months to build in PeopleSoft and iterate through and make sure we ironed out all the kinks. It took me 24 hours to build in Kuali Build.
Holy smokes.
That was it. To me, that was it. And when I mentioned that to people, they said, don't tell anyone. We don't want to kill PAF.
Right. Well, also too, you don't want people realizing, oh gosh, it's so easy for Erol to build these now. I've got 1,000 requests for him that I'm going to put in there. Right. It's the Scotty factor, right? It's impossible. It can't be done. Yeah. Sandra, so you guys made the decision to move forward with Kuali Build. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with onboarding, like what implementation was like for you, and those initial steps that you might have took with training, and what your first reactions were to Kuali Build?
So really the first year that we implemented, we worked on a couple of pilots. We were trying to use those pilots to learn about, what integrations would be most useful to the community. What group structure should we use? Universities are complex, particularly, we're very decentralized. So one of the first questions we had was, how do we build our group structure? And we didn't have an answer because it depends on the process. It's all matrix reporting. So after the pilot, Erol phenomenally just, put the integrations in, we figured out what was most useful. About a year ago, we decided, okay, we're ready to roll out. So we started a campaign just, with meeting with department administrators, with various groups across campus. We have, we call it Monday Minute at Tufts. It's a weekly update of what's happening across the university. So we put information out there. We developed a training program, and it's 2 half days. We offer it mostly like once per month. And what we do is we require folks who want to be app builders to first attend this training session, learn how to build. We're always available to consult with folks about what's appropriate for Kuali, because we don't want to build shadow systems. We don't want to try to replicate what another software application does using Kuali. And the response has been great. I do have stats on our, how we've grown over the past year.
Well, I'd love to see that. Erol, do you have any comments about the onboarding experience before Sandra goes into her slides here?
Onboarding. No, I mean, we were trying to figure out what's the best app at the beginning. And I don't know if we're going to touch upon, did you want to touch upon that, Sandra?
Well, we're thinking it's onboarding is like, how do we get the community to adopt?
The community, right. Okay.
Yeah.
But my opinion was, if you can make it easy for people to use and retrieve data from PeopleSoft, especially the most administrative tasks, build those APIs, show it to them, and they will come. They will embrace. Yeah. And that really helped. The APIs from PeopleSoft and the APIs into ServiceNow and Salesforce basically helped mushroom adoption.
Yeah. So you're echoing one of the things that we often hear, which is, the great challenge with any new implementation is change management, right? You're asking people to stop doing something that they used to do and then do something new. And, if people have built forms and, found their own solutions to problems, there's an investment there. And so there's switching costs. And it can be emotional at times. People have invested a lot of time and effort into systems that they have in place. But what we hear, and what I'm hearing from you, is as they go through this initial training, that initial exposure, there's this light bulb moment that happens. Is that something that where they start to realize the potential of what this thing can do?
Yes, so you know, we found two champions initially in the university that once they learned how to use the tool, they just went off and just built a ton of apps and basically replaced a lot of their manual business process with Kuali. So I think for us, the key is that since we can't be the app builders for everyone at Tufts, is finding those individuals within certain, you know, within business units that are going to take ownership and run with it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's so great. Sandra, you've got some data that you can share. I'm really eager to get that in front of folks. I was surprised when you shared it with me, just how far you guys have come.
So I think, can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, looks great.
All right, so as of January, we have 77 apps live. And as I mentioned, we sort of announced this a year ago, just about a year ago, and 66 of those apps went live in calendar year 2023. We have over 9,000 documents submitted through Kuali Builds. We have another 60 apps under development. We have 60 app owners or app builders in our community. About 40 integrations of data in and data out through Kuali Build, and these were all built by Erol. And the one thing that we feel is a real game changer for how we manage the platform are spaces. It was introduced maybe about 6 months ago, and it really helps to organize our business units and allows, you know, our champions to manage all the apps within their units and designate child builders within the space and assign roles. So that was, I think, a real game changer for us.
Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by you know, child and spaces here? This might be new lingo for folks who haven't used Build before.
So for an example, we have maybe one of our schools, School of Engineering, that has 4 or 5 academic departments. So we have one person who's responsible for all of the apps under the School of Engineering. And then under that, there can be departmental groups, and they can assign individuals within each department to just manage those apps. So it helps to facilitate the group structure for us as well, because we were sort of, you know, trying to figure that out. And I think the spaces kind of helped us, you know, organize how the apps.
Yeah, when I say master of your own domain, that's what I mean. You know, departments have a space where they can decide, you know, what apps they want to make available and how to manage that space. And then we should add, they get to do their own branding as well. So if a School of Engineering has their own specific logo, you know, they can drop that in and really have it be their own space. You know, of all these data points that you have, I mean, these are all amazing. You guys have grown so fast. You've really taken off. 9,000 submissions is a huge accomplishment. But I'm really interested in the 60 app owners. And to me, that I'm imagining, like, you know, we talk about scaling your IT department, right? Like, without bringing in a lot of additional resources, how you can grow with what you have. And having 60 people out there create their own forms and workflows, I think really speaks to that. Can you talk about their reaction? Have you gotten feedback from folks who are creating their own forms and workflows? What do they have to say about this experience?
I mean, definitely I'm thinking of 2 individuals that championed it early on. Love it. Love Kuali Builds. And I think once folks go through the training and they realize it's not that difficult to build a form, build a workflow, you know, that's the ease of use, I think, is key.
Yeah, great.
And it should balloon, I would like to add, because we have a lot of PDFs. So they're not meeting our accessibility guidelines, and Kuali just works accessibility wise. It works.
Yeah.
So move your form into Kuali and don't have. And so many people are trying to do that right now. So it's going to mushroom. Once the word got out how easy it is to use and it just works, people no longer have to do their I don't know, WordPress sites. They don't have to worry about security. They don't have to worry about HIPAA rules. They don't have to worry about accessibility or making it work for a phone. It just takes place with with Kuali Build. So that is going to mushroom. It's a slow process, right? You first have to prove what it's for. Then you're going to have to prove how efficient it makes things. And then you'll find one or two people who are interested, and they'll just keep asking you, and they'll push the envelope. Those are our champions. And once we make them happy, they'll start advertising for you. So it's like that slow adoption curve that all of a sudden there's that big peak. We're right at that crest.
Yeah.
And we're going to get more as people try to move their PDFs and other forms into Kuali.
I mean, just from this slide, it's a variety of processes that we're currently managing through Kuali Build. And as folks hear about, for example, a time tracking approval app, we're simply copying a template of that for each business unit that wants to use it.
Got it. Yeah, that's a pretty diverse sample right there. Yeah, one of the things we hear often, it's hard not to get carried away at times. Like people will think of, oh, we can build a form for that. We can build a form for that, any new need arises on campus. So I know you have another slide, Sandra. I have a question for Erol. We're going to get into integrations, and I just want to remind the audience as well to use the Q&A feature of Zoom here. If you have questions, just pop those into the Q&A area and we'll field those as they come.
I mean, I think I'm all set for slides. I just have an overview of the university, but.
Yeah, we probably should have done that at the beginning. Well, you know what? Bring it up real quick. For those who aren't familiar, some basic information about Tufts here.
Yes, so we're an R1 research institution, the Carnegie Mellon designation. We have about 12,000 students. I think half of those are undergrad. We have about 6,000 employed faculty and staff, and because we have a health sciences presence, we do have many affiliates that work in our teaching hospitals that actually teach in the clinical setting. We have 4 campuses. The main campus is Medford, which is slightly north of Boston. We have 2 campuses in downtown Boston. And then we have a vet school, which is out in Western Mass, about an hour outside of Boston. And we have a total of 12 schools. So you can see that, it's a pretty diverse community as to needs and processes.
Yeah. And of course, you have Jumbo the elephant as your mascot, probably one of the great mascots in higher education there. So, all right. Thank you for sharing that, Sandra. All right, Erol, let's talk about integration. This is one of the big sticking points that a lot of IT administrators have with, workflow solutions and form solutions that they evaluate. Can you talk a little bit about your experience building integrations for Kuali Build? He's got that look.
I mean, it's so
where
easy. That's the thing. One thing that we wanted was an API where if we return the kitchen sink, we don't want to overwhelm. We want to be able to pick from the data that gets shown in the. So I don't want to build 100 APIs for the same business purpose. I want to build 1 or 2 that give all the information I need, yet I will cherry pick in Kuali Build at the time I build the API. It'll call the same one from PeopleSoft, but it'll only expose those fields we want. 1. 2, we want to be able to choose a key, or when you have a drop down, we want to say, this is what should be displayed, but we want all of this baggage to come with it if we want to. No one else could do that. That was a revelation. So, I want a drop down of students. Okay. And I want it to be alphabetically by last name, comma, first name. But when I choose, I want their 3 majors or 2 concentrations. Which school are they cross-registered? All that information to come in. That happens at Kuali Build. Another wonderful thing is Kuali, when they call APIs, they say, this is the user calling. So what I can do is I can prevent a student from snooping into other people's forms. So I'm a student, Sally Jones. I can't go see what Erol Irez got in the grade because Sally Jones is making the API call, and I have my API cross-reference row-level security in PeopleSoft, so no one can go snooping. There's we don't have any anonymous forms, so we didn't mind that anonymous forms can't use APIs. We do have one form, but it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
So the lookup APIs were very important, very easy to use. You have 4 different ways of authenticating with a system. You have so many. I don't want to go to propeller hat here. Then in the workflows, one of the most important things, what really hooked people with Quali Build, especially our power users in central administration, was that we could send data once to Salesforce or ServiceNow and get the thing working and having their business process take over. So let me take what really helped was the computer request form. I need a computer, open a ticket. Well, what computer do you need? And by the way, who are you? Oh, this is what I need. Okay, back and forth. At least, I mean, the average was 7 emails to get from a user who the computer was for, what kind of computer, where they wanted it, and who's paying for it, etc. In comes Quali Build. Here's the form. All of those questions are asked. Moreover, big issues with, oh, my supervisor retired 3 months ago, but they're on the books as my supervisor for another 3 months as part of their severance package. It's not getting approved. Bam, onto the form. Is this the right supervisor? No. Here's a list of managers in your department. We do the department lookup API. Just so easy. And then all of a sudden, the number of back and forth emails are gone because they open the ticket with all the relevant information, all of it, and they're off running. That, then the research administration request form, no more back and forths. Who are you? What? Attach screenshots, please.
Sounds like it's making things a lot more efficient.
Much more efficient, much more efficient. Absolutely. Yeah. And the workflow APIs to send data and get stuff back is wonderful. So the ticket's opened, here's the ticket, and it's stored in Quali Build.
Can you talk a little bit? So you're building the integrations. Can you talk about how this translates for the app builders that you have, that team that's building their apps? How do they use your integrations?
The majority of the business analysts like to use the employee lookup, and if they're not employee, the LDAP lookup, and if it's a student, it's the student lookup. And this, so in the employee world, the biggest and most important is who's this employee, and then the next API, who's the supervisor. And in the student world, get student info, and there's no supervisor in the student world, but get their advisor, student advisor, one-to-many student advisors. Those are very, very popular. So those are the 2 that are almost always used or dragged. In the workflow, the most used workflow is Salesforce. Not everyone uses ServiceNow. So input, output, I don't know if I answered your question thoroughly.
So I think for the most of our app builders, they're not as involved with the integrations out of Kuali Build. We're being a little bit more selective, right? So we're picking platforms that we do want to allow, and usually they're managed through central operations or shared services at Tufts. We haven't really gotten into to allowing the regular app builder be able to push data somewhere else. We do send information to Box. That's an easy one that we do through email for final storage of documents. I think that's mostly what the community is using.
We do have a power user community in our GIS, geographic and mapping and information systems. And they built their own AWS lookups, but they keep it within their space. And we tell them, make sure. So those guys are super technical, right? We can tell them, do not make it available to everybody. Keep that integration only for your apps. And again, it's easy with Quali Build. You say this integration can only be used by these apps. Bam. And they have their own little lookups or they have their little quirks. But most of the time, most of the business are within these 40 apps. And by the way, half of those 40 apps were from 2 to 3 champions. Those who push the envelope, like, I need this, or I need that, or I couldn't find that.
They
But
really
once you
went
get
for
to
it.
40, there are hardly any more that we need to have.
Okay. You guys are you're approaching the limit in terms of what you needed to do. Which apps have been most impactful for Tufts in
Sandra?
terms of efficiency or just total submissions? Like, which ones do you think have made the greatest impact?
So I think the apps that are going to supplement payroll and HR and finance sort of transactions, if you will, that are not currently automated through our PeopleSoft self-service platform are going to be the most impactful. We have a ton under development. We only have maybe 4 that are actually live. And those take a little bit longer because of the integration and it's involving, users out in the community, the central support team. And it takes, we just implemented recently an app to manage travel card and purchase card applications. And it took us a good 9 months to get that one going. So I think that as those continue to roll out, those will be very impactful.
Great. We have a question from the audience here. This is from Melanie, sorry. Are the documents / output of the workflows stored in Kuali Build or in another retention system?
So we recommend that app builders sort of purge their data from Kuali Build and export it to, we use Box as our, sort of file repository system. So that's sort of what we recommend. We don't force anyone to do that, but kind of envisioning that it's going to get a little overwhelming as time goes on. And you can do that by like what makes most sense for that process. Is it semester based? Is it, annually that you want to keep the previous document out there so that the next year's submission would be easier? So those considerations. Got it.
So I'm wondering about, so the concept of institutional resiliency is big this year. I think EDUCAUSE, it was their theme of their top 10 list of issues for IT and higher education for 2024 is institutional resiliency. And it seems to me that what you all are doing could go a long ways to help cultivate and build out that institutional resiliency. When you think about all of the pressures and threats that higher ed institutions are facing. And they mentioned this in the EDUCAUSE report. They talk about, funding being an issue, being able to retain talent, attract and retain talent is an issue, building up your teams internally. Security, of course, is a huge ongoing issue, being able to, protect your data. When you think about the ideas, of institutional resiliency and the ideas behind it, are you finding now that you're rolling out Build, are you finding ways, are you having moments of realizing, my question is becoming abstract as I'm asking it. I apologize. But I'm wondering about your personal reaction and if you've had moments where you thought to yourself, this is really improving our institutional resiliency or helping improve our data integrity or helping improve our security compared to what we had before. Have you had those moments?
Well, for me, it's the audit trail. So you can see where, a submission is stuck for the workflow. And I think that's a game changer for, things, forms that were emailed around. If that person wasn't checking their mailbox, that item just sat there, and now someone else has the ability to go in and check on the status and where it's sort of hanging in the workflow. So I think that's huge. Erol, what do you?
An email is so secure, right? I mean, no one can access email. So please don't send social security numbers or pay PDFs through email.
Right.
No one does that, right? So yes, when it's done in Kuali, and people are saying, well, Kuali, is it as secure? I'm like, it's much more secure than what you have. Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's great. How about a favorite feature? Is there one thing that Kuali does that you're like, this is the best part of Kuali Build right here?
I don't have a favorite,
Okay.
but I gotta say that quality build comes in stages, right? The first stage, everyone thinks, well, let me build a form, time entry form or sick day form starts. And then they start kicking the tires a bit more and they play with it and like, wow, I have this process that takes 4 different people to approve or I need to look up. And they're always giving me the wrong department, or they're telling me, I don't know what department, but the one Erol is in the memo field. And it's adding a lot of, sand in the gears. All of a sudden, oh, I picked Erol. Oh, there's the department. Or this is me. These are my departments. These are the ones I'm allowed to bill. Not as much friction, easier to audit. Those are really, really important. They really help. And now we're at a point where those people who have reached that, they're now noticing, hey, what's that task feature in the workflow? You mean that I can send it to someone and they can do something oh, it's a leave. HR has to be in it, but our central has to do the paperwork. We'll send it to HR. Once they've done their business, it gets back into our queue. Love it. So now we have a transformation team at Tufts University who has a tool that can use Kuali to integrate disparate without having to do systems integrations.
Nice.
And that's going to be my favorite if we get to that stage. I don't know if it's this year or next, but we're going to get there. It's a gradual awakening.
Yeah, I would agree. Like for me, the workflow to be able to manage tasks, approvals, even acknowledgements and notifications all in one place, easy to drag and drop and create those is my favorite thing.
Yeah, I was the first time I saw how you build workflows, I was really impressed. I don't have a screenshot handy for everybody here, but the ability to move different steps around inside the context of a workflow when you've got really sophisticated branching logic going off in different directions was really something. And then being able to preview it in real time. Erol, you spoke a little bit about the future. I'm curious about your plans for the future for Kuali Build. Do y'all have any big ambitious project on the horizon that you're thinking about knocking off in the next year or so, or is there one that you
I have a couple of to-dos. So the ambitions are do more of the HR stuff within Kuali Build. So when I say HR stuff, those discrete processes that didn't make it into the $300,000 PATH project that had been waiting for years or could not be handled because there were too many exceptions. Guess what? We just now have an echo feature in a workflow for each department. Do this. Can't do that easily.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? What is the echo feature?
The echo is if you have a table and you say, oh, I need this person, and you have a multi-select, or this departments are going to be billed. Now I can have the echo say, all right, send it to the approver of this department, that department. Now we have a line item financial, which was one of the highest asks by the senior financial. We have business partners at Tufts. And then Tufts, it's all of it went by home department. But I need approvals at these. So now we have that ability, right? As we show that this is featured, hopefully it'll grow. The other one that I'm working on is where once a workflow ends, the CIO is really interested in this. Once a workflow ends, can it kick off another workflow? The answer is yes. We're working on it, right? It's baby steps. We're 2 steps ahead. But if we can say, all right, this job transfer process is over, now kick it over to payroll because they also got a raise. That's the next. And then once that's over, send it to HR for position management, and they have their own process. It's great. The trick is to make it more discreet, as opposed to the grand ambition of PeopleSoft where everybody, all 4 departments or 3 departments come into one, try to agree, and then get into their minutia. No more. So that's my ambition, our ambition.
Yeah. I think the other big one this year we're hoping is student-facing forms, surrounding like selection of a degree or a selection of a major or change of a minor and so forth. You know, and that's also school by school, but we are starting to work with the registrar's office and one of our schools to take all those PDF and there's another form builder tool that they're using that they're not happy with and convert those to Kuali. So I think we're not doing a lot with student requests except for maybe requests for, you know, to work in a lab or something like that. But
Yeah.
that will be a big game changer for us.
So, Erol, when you mentioned the Echo Step, it made me think of how we deliver new features at Kuali, which is a little different from previous experiences I've had with other companies, where even in an agile development environment where the company is building, you know, and working in sprints and building new features kind of on the go, there's no waterfall event, right? There isn't an annual, you know, 5.0 release of Kuali with, you know, a laundry list of new features that you would then have to learn. And it's almost like going through implementation and training all over again when you have this huge thing land in your lap. Can you talk a little bit about how Kuali does feature releases?
What's wonderful is we have the ability to tell our business partner, Pauline, we would like this. This would be great if. Can we do that? And not only can we ask, but we can see what other people ask. There's this web page with all of those in process or in planning or requested but not on the radar yet, a little like a Kanban thing. And we see what the development team is working on. And there are no promises for dates, but it's great. One day you log in and you're going to do something like, oh, what's new? There's that little beacon on the top right, and I click. Well, son of a gun. Now we can email people that are not in. Now we can email people that are not in our users. Right. In the old days, they wanted to send it to a vendor. We had to create the vendor as a service account. No more. You can send it. Oh, look at that. Now we have an echo feature, or look at that. We can actually have row level security. So I'm getting excited. So you can take a form and fill it out and use that data in that form as a lookup for one of your other forms. Previous to 3 weeks ago, it was an all or nothing. You could see it all or you didn't. Now you could say conditionally, if there's this check mark, then that person can see it. If not, like a student can only see these projects, and a worker, that came about. And it took me an hour to figure out how to make it work. Lovely. Yeah. Lovely. It's gradual. It's gradual. What's important is to know is as you use, so we change a form. We want to integrate a new one. Nothing breaks. None of the older, so previous versions of the form that were working and have data in process, nothing breaks. It keeps going. So there's a version control within Kuali that's wonderful. Whereas in PeopleSoft, you have to tell people, oh, let's finish these in the queue, then bring in the new update, and then you'll get the new features. There's none of that in Kuali Build. It's seamless.
Yeah, so we use Kuali Build for all of our internal systems. So like when I have to do expense reports after going to an event, you know, we have an expense report form that we use internally. So we use Kuali Build quite a bit for just about everything that we do inside the company. And it's neat to log in and see the alert, you know, oh, we've got the, you know, a new feature's just been added. It's like opening a Christmas present of sorts. Let's see. Well, we're nearing the bottom of the hour. I want to save a little bit of time to talk about, you know, a call to action for folks if they want to be interested to learn about more. But I thought I would ask you both just your parting thoughts. If you were to go to a conference and meet with a peer who was thinking about doing something with forms and workflows, or maybe heard about Kuali Build, what would you have to share with them? What's your high level 30,000 foot explainer on Kuali Build?
For me, it's you know, with a little bit of training, you can get you can get going and start building, you know, and it's very intuitive, easy to use. You don't need to be in technology. A little bit of tech savviness helps, but you know, it's just the ease of use.
Ease of use.
Yeah, that to me is the best thing.
Well, I mentioned several things. So ease of use, but also accuracy improves through APIs. And I'm trying to. The initial uptake was, if you just need a form, go use Qualtrics. But if you need an approval, use Kuali Build. Now I'm challenging that. I'm saying, no, you don't just use Kuali Build if you need approval. You should use Kuali Build if you need to orchestrate across one or more departments, or several people, or several systems. That task business. And thankfully, one of our most important champions, I mean, we have several champions, but one of the most important, the one that touches the spinal cord of many business, is someone who's very BPR focused and is very interested in that task. So I am starting to sell the tasks and BP, business process reengineering aspect of quality.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see here. I have just a couple of slides to share before we close out. I want to mention our annual user conference. We do this every year. We took kind of an online break during COVID, but we're back. We're going to be at Long Beach this coming April. And this is such an exciting time to have all of our customers come together and share ideas and success stories. You mentioned about Build for HR. We actually have another customer running a workshop on using Build workflows and forms for HR solutions that we'll be featuring at the conference. So if anybody on the webinars is interested in hearing from customers in person or needs an excuse to get away to Long Beach, you know, in mid-April, this is your opportunity to join us. Check it out. The website is qualido.com/qualidays. We've got the information schedule on there with all the different sessions listed. Finally, if you want to learn more about any of our other products or dig in deep with Kuali Build, we have a ton of case studies and white papers, just a lot of research. We want to make it easy for you to learn as much as you can on your own before you ever have to talk to me or anybody from sales. So be sure to check out our website. If you do want to talk to somebody from sales, we have a wonderful account executive, our vice president of sales and consultation, Liz Christensen. Erol and Sandra know her well, and they've worked closely with her in the past. She's a pro. She understands, very well issues that IT has to grapple with, and can answer all your questions. And with that, I think we'll end here. Erol, Sandra, thank you so much for your time. I'll tell you, I've been in educational technology for 20 years, and I've worked in K-12 and higher ed, and it is really food for my soul to hear that customers are using our product, that enjoy our product, that it does what it says it does. You know, we don't always have that kind of experience in educational technology. And so it's just really a delight to hear that it's working out well for you guys and how well you're doing on your journey. I encourage you to keep up progress, keep up the good work, and we'll check in on the future, maybe do another one of these a couple of years or something. All right, that's it. We'll end there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate you, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.